And let's go.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to Steelers Nation Australia and the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, episode 21. We're coming off a win. Let's go around the room. G'day, Daniel. What's going on, mate? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. A little bit under the weather, but holding tight, trying to stay strong, and really excited about this victory that we had yesterday. It was much needed.
Big time. We're going to talk about that for sure. And Nate, mate, how you doing?
Pretty good. Doing pretty good on this little chilly evening here. Christmas lights are up and running, so you love to see it. You love to see it.
Hey, how cold's it getting? Like on like a just Fahrenheit's all right. I can figure that out. What's the weather like?
Yes. This week it's kind of been a little bit warmer. It's been like in the 50s. Yeah, kind of like this week so far. But it's usually kind of hitting. You're kind of hitting during the day, like in the 30s, high 30s for right now and stuff like that. Haven't really gotten any snow.
No snow yet.
Few weeks or so, but it's coming.
And my temperature here is more like yours, Mark. It's been in the 80s.
Really? So you're like down because you're down near Mexico, right?
Yeah, we're pretty close down. We're in the southern part of the United States.
So your Christmas is always warm too? Like
it's
mine.
not usually this warm. It's typically in the 40s, 50s, somewhere around there.
But you'll never get snow, right?
We've gotten snow a handful of times. It's probably snowed maybe 3 times in the last 5 years or so.
Right, and Jeddah was at 17.7. That's precise. In SoCal, that's like me now. It's about 20.
What does that mean? I don't know I don't know Celsius. What is that? 17.7.
Why can't we just? You know what? You guys are the only bludgers I think in the world that use these metrics. It's like you and two other countries.
Well, give us degrees. That's all that matters.
Those are the best two countries, probably.
I think it's like that.
44. Well, yeah, that's here in San Antonio. It's been like it gets down to the 40s at night, and then gets up to the 80s in the day right now.
You guys do call yourselves world champions of a game that only plays in America, so but that's all right. It's fine.
We'll challenge. We challenge anybody from any other country.
We're gonna send over
USA, baby.
A bunch of Jordan Berries.
What are they gonna do? Kick us all in the nads?
Jordan Berry at center, Jordan Berry at quarterback. Oh, yeah. Where is that guy?
He was probably your favorite player.
In freedom units. There we go. Well, we haven't got that here. I tell you that. But that's another episode for the Drunk Turkey Show. I tell you that. I'm pretty sure I'm on there tomorrow. Check out the Drunk Turkey Show. We have the illusion of freedom in Australia. What's that? Government? Am I allowed to be here? Oh, it's okay. Oh yeah, I've got about an hour or so. And there's a bit of truth to that, all right? All right, guys, let's talk about the game. So let's start with you, Daniel. What are your overall thoughts of the game? I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was a good game.
I thought that the team made some steps forward. Up until this point, the team hasn't played more than a half. They've had some quarters here sparingly. They've had a half. Now you're looking at the game against the Bengals where they came out 20-17 in the first half and then just kind of crapped the bed afterwards. This game, it seemed like it was almost status quo in the third quarter. Like, man, are we really going down this road again? 3 and out. And, I saw something different. The team went down. They started trailing and they turned it around. And this was Kenny Pickett's first win, comeback victory. And, it was one that was needed. At this point in his career, he had a couple of opportunities earlier this season to win a game in the fourth quarter, and he didn't do so. And so he did in this game. And so that's another step forward, in my opinion, that, for Kenny Pickett's career up to this point.
Yeah, I agree with that too. What about yourself, Nate? Did you enjoy the game?
Yeah, it was a fun game. I think really, I think just overall as a team, I think that it was one of their better wins this season. And it was actually kind of nice because they didn't just score their own points in one quarter or one half. So that was, I know Daniel said last time that he wanted to see not all our points be saved for one quarter or the first or second half or not. So it was nice to see that. And it was just one you could just kind of sit back and enjoy. And maybe some of that too is just because we know kind of where the team is. It's really hard to kind of see anything and type of any push for a playoff type thing. So it might have been one of those we just kind of sit back, see how it unfolds. But it was pretty enjoyable. And I think for the most part, like there's a lot more good from this game that outweighs the bad, the negatives and stuff like that. So overall, I think you got to kind of be happy with a lot of things coming out of the game.
The thing for me is like, I thought the first half was amazing to see. I think the offense was clicking. Sure, we missed some field goals. You know, they went for field goals and
Matthew
they
Wright, man.
Yeah, he played well. Got a 53 yarder.
Got some pain on the ball.
Right? But first half was good to see. 16-3. Sure, we could have been up by 20. We could have been up by 20, maybe 24-3, right? More points on the board. But the thing that fell apart was the third quarter, right? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was like
well, you have that kickoff to kind of start everything, and then
89 yards. Went right down the field.
Yeah. It's hard, yards. Man. You can't pin that on the defense. It's just hard. That's just hard to defend.
Yeah, they're always gonna probably lose points there or whatever. But then they came back in front and 17-16. But we'll start with you, Nate. Nate, what was your thoughts on that third quarter start? Because I was pretty hopeful that the game was winnable from 16-3.
Yeah, it was really looking good. And I was kind of in the same boat with Daniel, like when we were seeing the 3 and outs on the offense, and it was like, oh no, are we going to see another second half collapse? Are we going to see the offense not be able to do anything? I was feeling that a little bit after the first couple 3 and outs, and then the Colts drove down the field the second time and got the touchdown. So I was definitely feeling a little uneasy in that type of way. But one thing that boggles my mind is, why did Jeff Saturday not take a timeout in any type of way with the final minute and a half? Like, he said that they had ample time, but like when Matt Ryan ran for like 9 yards and it was like 3rd and 1 or whatever with 30 seconds left, no timeout. They had to they quickly got back to the line and kind of called some type of play. Like, they had 3 timeouts. Why didn't they call a timeout? I saw somebody say that he forgot he was the head coach.
I think that what he was trying to do was, and the execution wasn't there. I think the goal was that if they didn't get the 4th down conversion, that they had 3 timeouts to essentially try to get the ball back for one last Hail Mary. If he calls his timeouts there, they don't get the 4th down, it's game over. And so he waits for it. Let's say they don't get the 4th down, and that was a pass play and the time was stopped. I can see what his mind was thinking in that aspect. But I think it had more to do with preserving those timeouts. That way, if need be, if they needed to use it, if the Steelers got the ball back, they'd have at least one last opportunity.
I'll be honest, fellas, I'm in a bit of a blur. I don't really remember it. All I remember was like, please don't let him score. Like, honestly. And
you were like 8 beers deep, right?
Yeah, I had 3 beers and 3 Canadian clubs. It was really hard to do the Syndicate podcast after that. And then I created 2 more videos, which were probably terrible. And then I went on a rant about chat sports being awful, which I still agree with. But I was just happy to see Sutton. I didn't even know that till today that Minka was in the backfield as well. Sutton came with a play. Minka was there. 4th and 3. See you later. But it was really like, it was an enjoyable game, but it was stressful too. But I do like what you're saying. And like, they came out and they had that, drive to go win one for once on both sides of the football, like on defense and on offense. I thought it was good to see. Finished the game 24-17. I was hoping we could get a bigger score, but they came back into it. But I really liked the first quarter too. I don't know about you guys thought about, what do you think about the first quarter, Nate? Because they didn't allow any points and no yards in the first quarter.
Yeah. They had a pretty dominant first quarter. They had the interception on like the second play
Unreal, eh?
for the Colts. It was a really nice extended interception by Pierre there. But they really held Jonathan Taylor that first half. And Matt Ryan just couldn't get anybody the ball. And so the fact that the Steelers offense kind of got quite a few possessions there in the first quarter, they had a really nice opening drive. They really did. And then that was stalled and they had to kick the field goal. So I was really hoping they would have been able to have a nice opening drive touchdown there. It is what it is. But you couldn't really ask, other than for the defense, other than other than that one drive where they were really getting torched in the second half, where they scored that touchdown after the touchdown they got from the kick return, really other than that. And then there was kind of one other one in the fourth quarter or so where they were kind of the corners were really kind of getting beat by their tight end, freaking Jelani Woods, whatever the hell his name is, in the open field and stuff like that. But I think they had a pretty good performance still. Like they held Jonathan Taylor fairly well. They had a really strong first half. They had a couple turnovers. Too bad they didn't get any more sacks than they did. And Alex Highsmith had a really big play too in the fourth quarter, sacking Matt Ryan too. So you got to give credit there. And only giving up 17 points. So you have to give credit there to the defense. Did you guys think that was a pass interference on Fitzpatrick or not, or before they fumbled the ball, or no?
No, I don't think it was. What about you, Daniel?
I thought that was a really, really weak.
Well, I thought it was bad. It was a bad.
I don't know how you want the guy to defend at that point.
I looked into the camera and said,
with his route or to catch the ball.
Vegas. That's what I said.
Yep.
Vegas, come on, man. Vegas always wins, but not this time. So, but even that one, like Minka, I thought he was playing the football with his hand over. Is that the one on the goal line, right?
Oh yeah. So like he I don't know. They said that he had his arm around the tight end's waist a little bit, but it had nothing to do with him not being able to make a play on the football or anything like that. It had nothing to do with that. His arms were free. He had his arm a little bit around whoever the receiver was, his waist and stuff like that. It was just a very weak call that should not have been called there. And then they fumbled the ball. So then the Colts fumbled the ball. So the ball doesn't lie.
That's true.
That reminded me of Jerome Bettis when he fumbled against the Colts, But I think it was Chris Wormley. I was calling the whole time. I thought it was TJ Watt. I need to get my eyes checked. Like, that's it. Because I thought it was TJ Watt in there the whole time. And then Chris Wormley's in there. And then I'm like, oh, they fumbled it. They got it back. But he came away with the steal. Let's go around the room. Let's go around some, I know you did some game balls on your channel, Stat the Steelers, Daniel. And I'll start with you first. Who's a game ball you want to give away to anyone on the team that you thought played really well? Could be a Chris Wormley. Could be a Louder Milk, put his paw up and got the block. Who's one of your game balls you want to give away?
One of mine, there's so many key players, but also real quick, going back to your eyes being checked, you definitely do, man. You thought that Anthony McFarland at 5'6", 180 pounds or maybe 160 pounds was Najee Harris.
You thought it was Najee Harris?
They look, honest to goodness, the hair looked the same. Hey,
he thought little Ant Mac was Najee. So,
might have been the Bears too, but
guy's shorter than me.
I reckon Najee Harris was doing his hair differently because his hair was a tiny bit longer at the back. Yeah.
I get it.
I think Najee would have had a big game too if he didn't get hurt.
Yeah,
I think he was running the ball kind of nice before he kind of.
We're gonna talk about Najee. We'll talk about Najee next because that's an interesting story. I don't know what's going on there with everything, but yeah, who's the guy
You see, for me to give a game ball to somebody, I would like to think that they had a solid game throughout the entire game. Initially, my first thought was like George Pickens, but he had a couple of drops there that were in his hands. Kenny Pickett's another guy, but he also had a quarter where he didn't make a completion. They all had their downside. I think defensively, I would say the defense was amazing. I have to go with Alex Highsmith. I think he played one hell of a game yet last night across the board. TJ Watt isn't, TJ Watt yet. He's coming back off the pectoral, and he's getting there. He's getting healthier, but he's not there, and he definitely needs, somebody else to pick up the weight until he gets there physically again. And Alex Highsmith did a fantastic job, pressured the quarterback relentlessly, had a sack fumble, I believe.
Yeah.
It was he had himself one game. Another person that nobody's talking about, and I mentioned it last night on Behind the Steel Curtain, was Matthew Wright. He was 3 for 3 on field goals. He made his extra point.
Yep.
He kicked in a 52-yarder that kissed the post.
Oh, that was nerve-wracking.
Oh, it was. I still can't wait for Boz to get back. With that being said, but I think he had a solid game. The kick coverage wasn't his fault. He was booming those kicks into the end zone. They were taking him out and doing something with it. And so, those two guys, in my opinion, had probably the most complete game from start to finish.
What about yourself, Nate? Any other blokes you thought had to give away game
I thought
balls?
this was funny. George said game ball goes to Claypool. Bears lost.
He played well, though. He actually got 50 yards instead of 5 last week, so he played. But the Bears are losing, which is good for us. We get a higher draft pick, right? Every time they lose.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's that pick's looking like just like a late first-round pick, honestly. And it's beautiful to see. It really is. Man, game ball. I like Terrell Edmonds, man. I really like Terrell Edmonds this game. He did. He was around the field a little bit. He had a nice sack too on Matt Ryan that you never really see him get. So I could say
Can I just stop you there for 1 minute? Can we talk about what were your thoughts about the defensive scheme like that? They were bringing the corners down. They were bringing the safeties down into the box. They were blitzing from certain different angles too. I want to go back and watch it. I might even watch it today. But I found like things were confusing Matt Ryan. Would you agree on those kind of concepts?
Yeah, they were showing a few different things, I think. I feel like did we not really see KZ or Kazi that much than we did the prior weeks, or was I missing him?
He was playing more safety role, I think, in this thing, but they're not really targeting.
I feel like I didn't really see him much back there. But yeah, they moved Cam Sutton in the slot. They had James Pierre outside a lot of the time too. So they did a little things different there. You saw Terrell Edmonds up a few plays, and they worked. And I don't know how often that they're really gonna shift things around like that, but I think too, man, because Matt Ryan's he can't move. He's obviously a lot older, and they probably wanted to really try to implement to get more guys up there than just maybe a Highsmith or Watt or Cam or Larry, whatever. And it worked for the most part. It really did. And they had some moments in the second half where they were giving up completions and yards to Pittman and Woods. But still, like you can't really ask for much better defense when you're giving up 17 points, when you're having a couple turnovers and stuff like that. So I like what they did. They didn't do anything in the sense of where they completely blitzed Matt Ryan the whole freaking game or anything like that. But they moved some parts, they moved some pieces, and they gave some different looks too. And I think too, moving Cam Sutton inside, having Pierre out there, also that kind of helped a little bit with his interception too, because James Pierre completely cut off that route.
Oh, it was amazing.
Was trying to do. And had a very nice extension. And so a lot of times Cam Sutton's kind of been outside, but I think he's still best as an inside guy. And you have a guy in Pierre where Pierre's obviously not this guy that's a starting type dude necessarily. But hey, if he's your 4th, 5th cornerback, he's made a few plays this year. And I'd like that too. So I don't know. I think it's just a week by week thing what different teams are showing offensively. And but the Colts, hey, I mean, they weren't going to be threatened by Matt Ryan and his legs at least. So it was kind of more so have Matt Ryan beat us down the field.
I was yelling out, Matt Ryan, you loser, because he got a 14-yard run.
Well, yeah, he did have a couple runs there that he was able to pick up.
I was like, man. But here's another question. I'll ask you, Daniel. Where's my mate Trey Norwood been? Is he out of the roster now, or not? He's not in the game plan anymore. Now they got Kazi, but Kazi also had one tackle too. The Kazi had one tackle, and Jeddah says here you don't see him, he's doing a good job. So, but where's Norwood? What's going on with Norwood?
I think that when you look at the pedigree that Kazi brings and the and the talent that he has, he's going to limit Norwood's play on the field. But yeah, that was a defense that was highly anticipated coming out of a 3 safety set. Kazi, Edmonds, Minka is supposed to cause havoc, and it hasn't been noticeable, which could be good. It could mean that the quarterbacks aren't attacking that and are staying away from those 3 and really trying to get the under routes, which makes sense when you look at what James Pierre was able to do. Those things are possible, but I will say this about Matt Ryan, and I'll give him a little bit of credit. I thought he moved pretty well in the pocket. I think that he could have gotten sacked so many more times, but he was just able to move up just slightly a little bit and get himself out of pressure. I thought the Steelers were going to be getting somewhere around 5, maybe 6 sacks in this game just because of his immobility, and the weapons really aren't there. The offensive line struggled for the Colts up to this point. Jonathan Taylor, he's been an average back to this point. Even in yesterday's game, he did okay. It was a good game. It was a good game, and I think that the Steelers defensively came out pretty strong. If it wasn't for those kick returns, I don't think this game is close. Honestly,
it sparked them, didn't
that?
it?
That one really did it in. There's nothing you can do about that.
That return sparked them and got them 3 points, and then the big drive as well. They had one big drive. It could have been almost near a blowout game, but I like the way the defense came down. Even Cameron Sutton was in there showing blitz. They showed blitz a lot. They backed off. They're really tricky with their blitz and stuff like that. But Sutton came in there, got the arm tackle, missed him, but. I think overall, I want to watch it again because it was fantastic. But let's move to
the other thing is too, you don't want to put too much out there on tape. So if you're dominating a guy in a team in a certain game, and you're not going to want to put all your plays out there for the Ravens, the Browns, and everybody else to see and study for. You know what I'm saying? And so they probably did take the foot off the pedal a little bit in that third quarter. I see that probably being more likely than not. But they turned it around in the fourth and really came back. It's been a long time since the Steelers won, big, and I kind of want to see that already.
Yeah, but they've won all assets of every quarter.
Yeah,
I still think it was a pretty big win, but not with the points and stuff. But they were still rushing 4 people, even with a 4-man rush. I saw Cam getting back in there, and Highsmith too. He had a lot of pressures in there, and TJ Watt. I thought the 4 even getting there was pretty good, but they had the one big drive. But for me, my game ball, and I know it's crazy to say, I like watching Benny Snell play that kind of football. I loved it. I love that the running style where he is going to get the ball, see you later, mate, run down the field and get 7 yards.
Mr. Monday Night, man.
I thought the touchdown as well was awesome to see. Like from the shotgun, handoff, see you later, mate, to the end zone, win the game. I thought finally that was the first time that Benny Snell had carried the football. Now, here's another question we're going to get into because I don't know what's going on with Najee Harris, if it is his health, but where do the Steelers go from here, Daniel, with Najee Harris? Because he's hurt, hasn't been playing too well this year, and we do have some backs that are showing promise in Warren. Najee, Snell had to go. I'm not saying Benny Snell should go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, nor should McFarland, but they had to go yesterday. They ran the rock pretty well. So what happens with this Najee Harris situation? Do they rest him? What do you think you see in the future for the next 6 games? What do you see?
I mean, if he's healthy, you play him. I have some concerns at this point with Najee. I think he can turn it around. I think he can be a better back. But, with what you just said, you had McFarland had a decent game. Benny Snell's had a decent game. Jaylen Warren has had a decent game. What's making him more special than those guys at this point? Maybe perhaps it's this offensive line finally gelling together, getting the time and the cohesiveness together that they've needed. This is one thing that I thought of in going into this season was you have 2 interior offensive linemen who are brand new to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Mason Cole and James Daniels. You have a second-year left tackle we have a second-year left tackle and a left guard in Dotson, Dan Moore, and left guard in Dotson who hasn't played much. He's been injured. He's dealt with injury a lot. And let's face it, he's not been the the guy that the Steelers have liked. They've pushed for guys like Kendrick Green to beat him out this year. They brought in Ray Turner initially was to push Dotson. And then when DeCastro retired, they signed him to end up taking over the right guard position. But, it was going to take time for this team to gel and to get together. I think that he's not separating himself from the rest of the class or the rest of the room. And that's a little concerning to me. He's a first-round pick. He's supposed to be when you're picked in the first round as a running back, you expect that running back to be probably top 10 running back in the league. Yeah. I don't think he's at right now. And so if it's health related, then sit him down, wait till he's ready to rock and roll. But if it's not, and it's just a sophomore slump, he's too much in his head. I think he needs to get out there. I don't think you get better at football by not playing football, so to speak.
Big time. What do you think about that, Nathan? What do you think about Najee Harris and the run game as well? And I'm going to go for the stats after.
Well, it's definitely been a big step up these last 3 weeks. I can say that for sure. They've been running the ball really well. It's been helping out Kenny Pickett a little bit. Kenny hasn't been throwing the ball 40 plus times. That's a great thing. Najee, we can already see these last 3 weeks, he's in terms of not stats or anything like that, in terms of just how he's running, he's finally I haven't seen one time the stop and stutter that he was doing all year. I have not seen that one time these last 3 weeks. He's looking like the runner he was last year and in college these last 3 games. And that's a great thing. And it could be a variety of factors as to why he was not very productive the first half of the season. Have to wait and see on how the health stuff goes. But you have to give a lot of credit to the offensive line at the same time. We know Benny Snell isn't a groundbreaking running back. Anthony McFarland, this was his first game all year. And they both did their role well. They both helped the offense in different ways. And the offensive line helped with that. And that's great. That's great that you want to see that. And they're still a young offensive line too. And that takes time for them to gain that chemistry, to get that gel going and stuff. There still needs some things they need to upgrade. That left side of the line still very skeptical, but it's good. It's the right direction that you want to continue to see. And so I've been very pleased with the run aspect. They both had very productive carries, and you can't ask for much more from that these last 3 weeks. And that's something hopefully they continue to tackle the rest of the year. Now, is every game going to be like that? Of course it's not. But you at least want to see that more often than not. And just a nice hats off there to the offensive line these last 3 weeks, helping their running backs, because you can't do anything offensively, man, if you're not able to run the ball. And the Steelers has had that problem for the last few years. So it's nice. It's honestly been a breath of fresh air seeing it the last few games.
Well, let me see if I can bring this up with my, technology brain here. Did that work? Yeah, that would do. All right, so let's look at the stats too, right? You know what I liked about the running game? It was actually fun to watch. It was finally fun to watch. Benny Snell got 12 carries, 62 yards, 5.2 average, 1 TD. Now, the big thing is they're not big runs, right? They're not huge 20, 40, 40 whatever runs, Yeah. They're not, was it Jacobs for the Raiders the other day? Got like 300 yards.
Dude. Talk about popping off, man. He's been very good this year. He's always been a solid back, but this has definitely been his best season.
Yeah, so it's nothing like that. But I think for the Steelers offense, where we have started from the start of the year and going through, the coaching staff and the players executing plays and building the offense as we go, it's been a real positive to see. Getting 172 yards is crazy to see. That's what I like about it. Now, you have Najee Harris, of course, 10 carries, 35, but he went out injured. And he got the 1 TD, which was fantastic. I'll get to Kenny Pickett last. McFarland got 6 carries, 30 yards, 5 average, right? They used Gunnar Olszewski quite well in the run game too. In the one jet sweep we saw, 9 yards was a good one to see. Finally worked, right? But they only used one jet sweep the whole game. Derek Watt had the 4. When did Derek Watt get the 4 yards? Was that off a third and
it was a third down, yeah. And they I don't know which running back they had in the backfield, but they had Watt lined up in the back, and they gave it to Watt, and he got the first down.
Right. So they're even using him, in the run game too. But overall, guys, like the run game looks pretty good. It's 36 carries, and the offensive line's doing better. 172 yards, 4.8 yards average. And I feel like we talked about this, or a lot of guys talked about this at the start of the year, where you wanted to see this kind of mentality, run the rock, and play some good defense, and that's kind of how it worked out. But I left Kenny Pickett for last for a reason. Kenny Pickett has 32 yards, 5.3 average, and the longest of 9, right? And I think that was the QB draw, which I thought was a really good play, actually. A lot of things are catching me off guard. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. They're lining up in shotgun. Next minute, the water opens up, and Kenny Pickett's right down the guts for a QB draw. I was like, wow. I was like, I didn't even think about that. But we're going to transition into Kenny Pickett because I want to get your guys' thoughts on Kenny Pickett. I thought the run game is fun to watch. It's finally like when I was watching the game yesterday, I was like, man, it was really cool to see, Benny Snell football, McFarland run dudes over, Najee Harris run dudes over. But I thought Kenny Pickett played pretty well in the run game. And I'm going to start with you, Daniel. What are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett's overall game yesterday? Because in my opinion, I thought he played a pretty good game, maybe his best game of the season. Overall, with the passing, even the errors, I thought overall was his best game. What do you think, Daniel?
I thought he played a solid game. Best game, maybe. I think he did more in the first half of the Bengals game. I think that had he transitioned that into the second half, I think that would have been his best game. I think this one wasn't bad. I liked what I saw. He was able to do a couple of things down the field that I've been wanting him to do down the field. That I think his best throw, in my opinion, the entire night was the 2-point conversion to Pickens running the short window, running off throwing off the run. I want to see more yards. I want to see more TDs through the air. It's a little slow. And like Mike Tomlin said last press conference, his development is good. It's going there. You wish it'd be faster though. And you're looking at a game that's another one under 200 yards passing, no turnovers. That's a big one. Deontay Johnson dropped a pass that should have been a touchdown. So there's one there. Like I said, I think he did a better job. I think he's moving in the right direction. Only time's going to really tell whether or not he's the guy or not. I think that the remaining schedule is a good test to determine that. You have the Falcons at home, and then you have the Falcons on the road in a dome. So that's going to be helpful towards him as well, staying in that conditions where the weather's controlled. But the only team that he has left on the schedule that has a winning record is the Ravens, and the Steelers have been, they got their number, so to speak, when it comes to Lamar Jackson and what they want to do offensively. The records speak for itself. I don't remember. I think 2019 was the last time that the Ravens.
Yeah, they beat them. They beat Duck that game.
Right, and so with that being said, I think they have a good opportunity here going forward to really show his progression and show what type of quarterback that he's going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just one more follow-up question to you, Daniel. Do you think, over the last few weeks, do you think Kenny is getting better cohesion with his receivers? Because I kind of think that 2-point conversion showed that. Like, it was fantastic. They actually ran back. He ran back. And I liked how George Pickens sat down and knew where he was too. A lot of receivers run out of bounds. They don't know where they are. Like, he sat down and went, bam, in the corner, catch, 2 points.
Right. I think he's building up some great chemistry with Pickens. I'm not sure if it's across the board with all the receivers. There's a lot of been talk about Deontay Johnson up to here recently, about him being involved more, this, that, and the third. But I really honestly wasn't looking forward to having Deontay Johnson all that involved. He drops the ball in key moments. There's just a lot about Deontay Johnson that ends up turning into some drive killers. And I think that can affect the confidence of your quarterback. If he's throwing the ball and it's third down and the guy's not coming down with the ball, not keeping his feet in bounds, not, making the routine catches routinely, then, it's going to start to affect his confidence. So I don't know if it's Kenny Pickett who's decided not to throw to Deontay, or if it's Matt Canada who's decided to scheme him out of the playbook because to preserve the confidence of his rookie quarterback. But I don't think that there's a coincidence there that there's been less drop passes since they've kind of gone away from that. And the other thing I'll say is that this is a completely different offense than what we've seen previously when it comes to Matt Canada. You know, Deontay Johnson was the focus point under Trubisky and under Ben Roethlisberger. And Derek Watt is a guy that hasn't been seen on the field until Kenny Pickett got himself on the field. So this is two different offenses. I know a lot of folks like to say, oh, different quarterback is the same thing as that. It's not. It really isn't. It's two different offenses, two different types of play types, and they're just building it, and it's just getting better, and it's going to continue to build as this team progresses and builds together. I think that this team can do some good things, down the stretch this year.
Well, one more follow up, and then I'll get to you, Nate, next. But Daniel, is that what you're saying here? Are these the same play calls we said in Canada? You're making adjustments? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, he's making some adjustments. It's pretty. I want to say obvious, but when you look at the player personnel of who's on the field and what they're doing on the field, based on the quarterbacks that were there, you can see a difference. You can see a definite difference. And that was one thing that I had brought up. I was like, you look at last year, and everybody was sort of kind of complaining about last season that the offense looked very similar with Canada and Randy Fichtner. And I think that had to do more with Ben. You had a quarterback that was kind of set in his ways, that was doing things a certain way, loved his certain type of plays. And also, you really can't run any options where Ben Roethlisberger is going to be the running person in that. He's never going to be the running option. And so, this year you had Mitch Trubisky come in, and then that game plan completely got uprooted 5 games in when they decided to go with the rookie. Now, when you go with a rookie, you have to minimize the playbook. You have to change it. You have to bring it down. You got to dumb it down because you can't throw everything at them right away. There's a lot of these brilliant, genius offensive coordinators that are out there that don't do well as coaches. And in my opinion, it's because they go out there, they pick a quarterback of their choice from the draft. They're usually, when you get in a coaching change, you're usually going to a bad team. So this team usually has a high pick. You usually don't fire coaches that are doing well. And so you end up with a low pick, you end up getting a rookie quarterback, and you're trying to instill the offense that you had in your previous regime with a standing quarterback with now a rookie quarterback, and it's too much. You got to simplify it. You got to come in simple and then build one step at a time. And when you're doing that 5 weeks into the season, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. You have all these other teams who have been learning one game plan, one scheme for the entire course of the year. You're 5 weeks now behind. And so I just, like everybody says, throw some patience out there for certain players in certain positions. I say throw some patience out there for the entire team, and that includes the coaching staff, because I think especially when it comes to the running game, the way they're running and how they're getting their running plays done, that's another attribute, in my opinion, to the coaching staff. As much as some people don't want to hear that.
what you're saying is by next year I'll be yelling out, "Don't fire Canada!"
Well, and this is one thing that I've brought up many a times. I mean, you look at the last time the Steelers had let's just say the Steelers don't make the playoffs, right, this year. The last time they had 2 seasons and, back to back with a brand new coordinator that they didn't make the playoffs in, that offensive coordinator was Todd Haley. The Steelers went 8-8 and 8-8, I believe, in 2012, 2013. Now, in 2013, you had Le'Veon Bell, you had Antonio Brown, you had Troy Polamalu still, you had Debo Harrison still, you had Ben Roethlisberger. You had a stacked team, and a team that had gone to 3 Super Bowls, 1, 2, as far as the quarterback goes, and Ben Roethlisberger, and yet they came out flat, and everybody was castrating Todd Haley then too. Oh, we hate the screens, we hate the short game, the dink and dunk doesn't work. Man, fast forward to 2015, 2016, 2017, that was probably the most prolific offense that the Steelers have had at any time, ever. And so they didn't have the defense to back it up. If they did, there would be some more hardware in our case, but they didn't.
Blake,
and I think,
Antoine Blake.
Antoine Blake. That's
he had one interception. He had one interception, Blake, though, down the sideline for a TD. It was awesome to see. This is my mate here. My mate is Smack Down Under. He's stolen that name from Touchdown Under and put SmackDown in front of it like WWE.
Yep.
And he's always in here like, doing personal jokes. Like, 'cause we're mates. I've known the guy like 30 years, right? He's calls me. You guys have no idea what Mavo is, right? Probably not.
No.
No. He calls me Mavo because some people call me Davo, like Davison, but he mixes them up and calls me Mavo because I mark at the front. And I'm like, he says here, and it's like an inside joke, but he says the hardest working content creator on the coast. It's like me. It's no one else. Unless all the TikTok people out there, But let's move on. Nate, what are your thoughts about Kenny Pickett and his progression?
Well, before I do that, just a couple questions here, and guys, definitely toward the end of the show too. Any thoughts or questions you guys want to put out there, we'll definitely answer them. Also,
yeah, I've got to go back to a few. There's a few there.
Yeah, for Jennifer, she asked if we think Sims will return one. He could. He's.
Okay.
It seems like every time Sims returns, there's always positive yards in any type of way. It always seems like there's positive yards coming out of his return. So I think he has a higher chance than not to do that based off of just that alone. Yeah, Claudie says, you guys think Matt Canada will be the Steelers OC next year, especially if they go on a run? I mean, who knows? Like, they could. Like, if they see the last 3 weeks, they've put up over 20 points. So they've definitely put up points where they can win games. So it's possible. Like, we all know the hate Matt Canada's gotten. Some of that is justified too. But it's possible. Yeah, I mean, Mark obviously, there and stuff like that. There's a lot of other factors that go into that.
I hate his hat. I can't stand his hat, man. I just don't like his hat.
Yeah. No, and it's okay. Yeah. Like, everyone's got their own thoughts on crap. So it's possible. It really is. I feel like if the offense maybe just kind of continues to break this amount of points, stuff like that, and you're kind of seeing some good play calling and stuff the rest of the stretch, they definitely could. And it's something too, like what Daniel mentioned, and I'll get to my stuff on Pickett here in a minute. It just with Canada, like I'm always a proponent of giving guys time, and that's why too, like when you see head coaches get fired after 2 years and shit, I'm like, bro, you gotta commit to somebody, right? You gotta commit to somebody, and if it doesn't work, okay, but Canada, there's things there too that you factor in. And that's what I mean. If it's something of where they are having good production, it's definitely possible. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be possible? Let's see here. But yeah, so about Pickett, I was encouraged. I was excited to see how he was going to play inside. And really what we've seen the last 3 weeks after the bye week, we've seen he's had a good half, and then the other half there wasn't much there, right? With this game, we saw a lot in the first half. The third quarter was getting shaky, and it was one of those things like, okay, is this what we're going to have again? But he had a really nice fourth quarter too. He made some big plays. He had a nice game-winning drive. And I've just always been one of where when it comes to, and you see this around the league, when you select a quarterback pretty high and you select him because you're confident, you hope that he can be your guy for quite a long time. Everybody develops at different rates at different times. And it doesn't just go for quarterbacks. It goes for any young guy. Sometimes guys flourish right away. Sometimes it takes them a year, takes them 2 years, sometimes maybe 3 years. And you also have to set them up right as well. But Canada versus Jeff Saturday, possibilities are endless. But I've always been a proponent of, like, you gotta just let everything play out, kind of let everything go. I know things get frustrating at times when you're not scoring the points, when the team's losing. It does. It does. But what we've seen these last few weeks, I think you're seeing things in the right direction. And I do think that this game was his best, not simply because of a stat sheet or anything. I think it was just his best because decision-making. I think that we saw a difference in terms of decision-making. I thought a lot of his ball placement was a lot better too. He gave receivers chances in terms of where he put the ball at. He made good decisions as well, not necessarily stepping up and taking sacks like he did before. There was one play in the fourth quarter where he could have got the ball thrown away. But I think that with the plays he's able to make on his feet too is kind of really refreshing. And I love just his competitiveness too. And that's not necessarily a trait or anything like that, but a lot of poise there. And I really just like that one pass. He had just a really nice pass there. If you guys remember on 3rd and 9 to Pat Freiermuth, he was really getting heat from the defense. And he had he came out of the pocket a little bit and just fired a dart right to him to continue that drive. If you remember in the second half to Pat Freiermuth, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. The pass to Pickens, he had a really nice pass to Deontay. Those are things you want to see. He could have the touchdown to Pickens. He overthrew him a little bit. Now Pickens might have been able to get both hands on that, maybe, but the ball definitely should not have been that farther down or that farther away. He had him completely wide open and definitely missed on that. But really, I think that overall from this game, and I think too, it was his best game in my opinion because he had that nice fourth quarter. He made very key clutch third down plays and completions to keep that drive going, to set up the Benny Snell touchdown. And I do think the touchdowns will come. The red zone situations, I think those will come. And again, that's something as well with some time. That's some stuff as well. If we can be more patient with Canada, stuff like that, I believe those will. But just from an overall scheme, I thought he was very decisive. And one thing that stuck out to me, do you guys remember where Anthony McFarland was in the backfield on Pickett's left and McFarland ran kind of, a little bit like a wheel route, a little bit just where he was kind of there on the side, and Deontay had the slant inside and he didn't hit Deontay.
Oh yeah. The hospital pass.
Yeah. The hospital pass. Daniel, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So he did that. And I was like, man, why are you throwing that ball?
You know what though?
But hold on. I'll tell you, Mark, real quick. I'll tell you, in the second half, they ran that same exact play, and he hit Deontay Johnson instead. He didn't throw it. He was getting a little pressure there, not much, but a little. But he hit Deontay on the inside slant, and that's something there that I was like, okay, like that's great. That's something you look back at the film earlier, and you're like, okay, we're gonna run this again, but we're hitting the inside guy. It was open last time. They did it again, and that was really cool. The thing to Pickens was a really nice play. So there's things there you look at. It's like, yeah, okay, there's still a few misses there to guys that he should have had, a couple negative plays there. But overall, I think some of that was overcome. And I really just liked what I saw in the fourth quarter. I saw poise. I saw really some clutch plays. And nobody wants your private photo. See you later. I saw some clutch plays in the fourth there. And I was encouraged.
How am I getting? Is that a bot on?
Hey, don't block him, Mark, because you might lose your 1,000 subs if you start blocking people.
Think about it, Mark. They subbed your channel.
I've never seen a bot on a podcast like this before, like that.
Oh, I have.
They normally come on other stuff. Oh Jesus.
Yeah, like, do I block them? Do I
Man,
lose
I
a
don't need
couple of
those private
subs?
photos. What's going on with the internet? No, you're right, Nate. I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
No,
gonna let you finish,
man.
That's
I was just encouraged. I like to put it that way. I was encouraged. I was excited to see him play inside and kind of see how that was going to factor into. But I thought he had a lot of good balls, a lot of good ball placement, man. Made some really key plays with his feet that, like I said, is nice to have. And I'm seeing that. Like I'm seeing good things step at a time every week. And it's just one of those things that we just have to continue to let play out and hope that he continues to take those steps week at a time. It's really that. So I think that there's a lot of good things to take away compared to the other side. And that's what I like to focus on more than focusing on the other side a lot, because for someone who's a rookie, and like I said, I just didn't like the situation they put him in with that 4-game stretch either. That just was not good. I just like what I've seen after the bye week, man. And I feel like he's confident, and I think a lot of the guys around him trust him also. And it's just that's what it is. That's really the ultimate key thing when it comes to any type of rookie, is seeing week by week, step by step with stuff. And that's, to me, that's the positives and the encouragement things that I like to see. And I'm excited to see him finish out this year. And then whatever they decide to do in the offseason in terms of adding to the offense and whatever direction they decide to go. But and it's going to help too. Like I said, I think this back end schedule that's a little bit easier than what they had in the first half is going to help too by not having that. But and then the run game, like I said, being able to run the ball the way they have the last few games, that takes a lot off.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. It really does. Because you don't want your guy throwing 40 to 50 passes a game. That's for sure.
Unless he's Duck Hodges. Now, we're going to have a few questions, and we're going to end the show in about 10 minutes. So we have Alex Mahoney, and we'll go to quick fire questions. This is for you, Daniel. Why do all the plays look so contested? No one seems to be running open or being thrown open. What are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
Well, you gotta see them and throw them open sometimes as well. I mean, that's on everybody. You have some receivers that aren't making the right choices. You have the quarterback that sometimes isn't leading the receivers, and sometimes you have some play calls that are a little bit stale. That is the growing pains that I speak of when we talk about, having a young team across the board. Those things are going to happen. You're going to have a rookie quarterback not see certain things. And when it came to that, like for instance, even the overthrow that he had to Pickens, I think I put it on your channel. I think I was watching yours, Mark, while you were live streaming the game. I was like, I'm not too concerned about that throw. That throw there will be there in the future as they get that chemistry down and everything else. But as far as, the yards after catch, that's a concern. And there's more than just one person to put the blame. And that's kind of when you're 4-7, there's more than one person to be blamed for being 4-7. It's just, that's what it is. Sometimes you're a bad football team. Now, I think that this team here has these pieces to get it together, and they just need to put it together, you know? And I think that they're finally doing that. It takes some time. It takes some cohesiveness. It starts off with the offensive line. If the offensive line can't get together, then nothing else is going to work, regardless of what you're doing in the backfield. And so the offensive line has seemed to make that, turn that page. And as Kenny Pickett gets more comfortable with his offensive line and has that confidence to see things happen down the field, perhaps he starts taking more chances down the field and leading receivers.
Fair call. And Nate, any update on Najee? I know you're best friends with him. Have you called him? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think he's just ready for vacation, man. I think he's ready for a nice 300-day vacation away from football, away from the facility, just kind of like how Aaron Rodgers is every year, and all these other guys, man. They're ready for they're ready for the 300 days off. But no, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
I don't know what the update is on him, man. Nobody's really said anything. It's some abdominal thing. It looks like it's not really his foot. I really don't know. So that's why they just kind of need to continue to gel the O-line. Like, what they've been doing. Like, it's been encouraging and has what they have been. Like I said, that left side, they're gonna have to make some adjustments there on that left side of the line. They really are. Do you guys think that Mason Cole is going to be the center for at least the foreseeable future?
That's a good question, Dan.
I could see him there, or maybe even transitioning to the left guard if the Steelers want to, get a highly drafted or a highly pedigreed center. I think Mason Cole can be a guy on this team. Maybe not so much the center position, but I think he's done fairly well. I mean, I think when you look at the offensive line in total, I think he's done the best all in all. I don't think you really want to replace the best guy on your team when there's other holes that definitely need to be addressed first. And the center and left tackle, guard, like the left side of the line needs to be addressed, in my opinion, before you address the center.
Alrighty,
do you guys think that they can, at least in these next coming games, they continue to for 20 points and stuff?
Yeah, they're going to win the Super Bowl, man. That's what I'm talking about. I think to me, the offense it seems like it's getting more open. It's getting more like they're using more players. Like, I still want to see them use Connor Hayward and stuff. It seems like they're scheming things a lot more open and a lot more. It's more fun and fresh, if that makes sense. As a viewer watching an entertaining game, I'm like, wow, like things are moving, right? It seems a lot better. So I think they can. I think offense is playing really well too.
Yeah,
overall.
it's encouraging to see. There's some good play calling. There's still some play calling that stalls some stuff too, but you have to give credit to some of the calls that's been working that they and there were plays that were there that they did not hit and connect with on Monday either. There were ones that could have hit, but the receivers didn't do much help there. And so it's encouraging, and that's what you want to see. And that's it. Like the rest of these games, they can do that. Will they every game? Probably not, but they can, and that's what you want at this point. That's what you want. It's a young team. You got a lot of young guys on offense playing together for the first time and stuff like that. And sometimes it takes a lot for stuff like that to work out right away or consistently. But I see really from just an offensive standpoint these last few weeks, I see more encouragement than not.
Oh, big time, man. It's all part of football too when you make the mistakes too. Daniel, back to you, mate. Quick fire. What's going on? Why does DJ run backwards?
I just think he's probably put too much pressure on himself. He's probably thinking too much at this point.
Wants to make those plays he hasn't been able to make.
Yeah, the opportunities haven't been there. So when he does get them, he's trying to make a home run. Those type of things. I think that's why he's doing it. He's just probably trying to do too much. If he just play his game and be DJ, I think he'll be fine.
Very cool. We have another one here from Jen. This is you, Nate. I like Mike Sutherland doing great things with Kenny. And then also, this is great. I want to ask you both this question. And I'll start with you, Nate. Are we sure Matt Cunningham is actually calling the plays? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like he has to be. I know Tomlin said earlier in the year he's involved in both aspects, but I feel like more than not he has to be. They invested in him. They let him hire multiple of his guys, and I don't see why it wouldn't be him and calling most of those things and everything like that. And I don't know how much involvement Tomlin has in terms of what he wants him to do, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see why it would be any other way. And so you also have to give credit to him when things do work, when they do have productive drives and stuff like that. And who knows? It could be something where the Steelers are encouraged by what they saw offensively the rest of this way, and they could bring him back next year, and it still could be a mess. Right?
He's
or
still on
it could
contract
be something
too.
where he turns into somebody that maybe has a longer tenure, and it's a good thing the fans did not run the team and fire him.
Yeah. Look, prove me wrong. I'm just talking in my room. It's all fun for me. I love what he's doing for the offense. Like I love how the offense is working, right? And then when it goes bad, I hate it. So what do I know?
When it comes to that, I think he's definitely calling the play still. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be sending him out to talk and represent the offensive play caller on press conference day if it wasn't him. You have to look at that aspect. And I just feel that they're going to give him his opportunity. You also listen to what he said as well. He said earlier this year that, Mike Tomlin has said it, and I think that's what he said. He brought up Mike Tomlin, stating that they have a rookie quarterback. There's going to be some growing pains, and they just need to focus on what they can focus and shut out the outside noise. Right. And that probably includes everybody calling for his job. And so, I think he's got the back of the quarterback. He's got the back of the organization, and he's got the back of Tomlin. They all got his back. And when you see that, I think, and you also look at the history of what the Steelers have done. They don't really fire coordinators. They let their contract expire if it's not working out. And so if he still has another year on that, I anticipate him being here another year.
Fair call. What do we think about this take from Nation 412, Nate? George Pickens reminds him of Antonio Brown. Jaw dropping. What do you think about that? In the football, I guess in the football sense.
Yeah, he has. Are we talking about attitude? Like
I don't know. It could be everything.
That's what I'm going to assume. Not really play style. George Pickens, we all even knew coming in from Georgia, he had a little bit of an edge to him. He had a little bit of some character things in the sense of that was talked about a little bit. But it's not something that concerns me, man. I mean, this team's had characters left and right over the last 10 years, and it really ultimately has not changed anything. If anything, the Steelers did a great job handling that. And George Pickens is very talented, and he can really be a special wide receiver in this league. But he's only, what is he, only 21, 22 years old?
Yeah,
So
super young.
he has to, he's got to mature more, of course, and stuff. And there's a couple unnecessary things that he's done this season, but it's one of those things where if they can just kind of keep him calm, and he needs to grow into that himself. But I'm not worried about that. He's still young. If it gets to a point of where like he starts becoming off the walls or something like that, but I don't see that happening or anything. I think sometimes he gets frustrated and takes it out on something and stuff like that. We know he's been frustrated really throughout this season overall, just in the sense of what he's been doing, and he hasn't really been getting the ball in certain spots and stuff like that. That's understandable. But I think it's something that kind of grows with time. And the thing is with Antonio Brown is that like how many, like there's guys on every team that have some type of character thing to them.
Mhm.
Like there is. It's not just the Steelers or anything. With Antonio Brown, how many people turn out to be Antonio Brown? It's like,
Man,
not many.
Antonio
Antonio Brown's probably the biggest joke to ever play in the NFL.
He's one of a kind, man. I don't have no time for him now. Great football player, but he's just something's going on.
He was one of the biggest jokes.
But Antonio Brown didn't turn out like that until much later in his career. Antonio Brown early on in his career didn't have the on-field or off-field antics, even to the degree of George Pickens does at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so to a certain extent, I understand the question and the concern behind it, because, you know, you can't castrate one for making a bonehead decision by, you know, doing a first down mark, you know, when the play or the game isn't, you know, counts, and then not castrate the other when he gets himself injected out of the game and doesn't care about it. Like, oh, it didn't affect anything. It doesn't affect this or that. So why do I even worry about it? Right. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that approach.
No, I didn't either. And I think that comes to coaching too. Like letting stuff like that fly and stuff. And like, you can't, that's just a really selfish mindset attitude. Oh, well, I played a good game. Right.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it's like, dude, like it's not helping any matters here. This is a business. This is professional football here. You play to win. You play, you have a team, you have guys wanting to accomplish the same thing you do here. And you can't just be, oh, well, I played a good game, or it didn't affect the outcome. Maybe if it was a 7-point game, it would have been different. Like, dude, that's not the point there. So he has obviously maturing to do, growing up to do. And hopefully he does and stuff, and doesn't really do things in the future to cost things in games and crap like that. So I don't know, but that's something I'm not really gonna really worry about or anything. But
Jane says, "Why when he brings an hot air balloon to camp?" All right, look, one more question, and I'll find one more question, then we're getting out of here. This is for you, Daniel. Then we'll do final thoughts. Why does Canada call plays that seem to make no sense at times and momentum killers? What are your thoughts on that?
Because they didn't work. I'm sure if those plays worked, they would make a lot more sense and not kill the momentum. I mean, there's a lot of aspects behind it. You know, when something works, it's cheered upon. It's yeah, this, that, and a third. But when it doesn't work, people
that happens a lot
to go the full extent the other direction. And so, you know, in my opinion, you know, when it comes to those things, it's just that those plays didn't work. Whether it's execution, whether it's the play call, maybe the defense knowing the play call. Regardless of what it is, it didn't work. Now, you know, there's plays that are sometimes the defense knows what you're doing and they can't stop it. And so that excuse isn't used anymore. So I don't think you can use that excuse when it doesn't work. If you don't use that as an excuse when it works, like, oh, they knew what we were doing and we still beat them. Like, you can't do that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And so, yeah, to me, the reason why they look so bad and drive killers is because the play didn't work.
And what did work was that I love that Kenny draw. I thought it was fantastic. But let's do some final thoughts and we'll get out of it. It's been an hour. Nate, final thoughts, mate. What's the lotto numbers?
Yep. Well, the lottery numbers, I might as well not even say anything because I never win. So I'm not even gonna put those out there. Final thoughts, really. We'll see how they do in Atlanta. This is a game as well that they probably won't be favored in. Atlanta has not been nearly as bad as what a lot of people thought. But I think it's a game, too, that will benefit Kenny playing inside. And Atlanta's an offense where they like to they like to scramble around. They like to utilize their Cordarrelle Patterson in multiple different ways. But again, they're not a threatening offense. They're not a threatening defense, and it's a game the Steelers can win. And I think that really what we've seen the last few weeks overall, I'm encouraged offensively the last few weeks, and especially last night. Like I'm encouraged with a handful of things from the O-line, from some things Kenny did, and the running game. Those are really nice things in the right direction. Defensively, we know that they kind of crapped the bed a little bit against Cincinnati, but I like guys they have on defense, man. I really do. They really just kind of need to evaluate some positions. Defensive line needs some help. Corner, we all know, needs some help. But I like a handful of guys on defense. It's just too bad that the defense just didn't turn out the way we expected it to this year. And whatever they do, in the sense of like if they promote Brian Flores, if they bring a new defense coordinator, whoever they decide to bring in the offseason, stuff like that, let's hope it works out. But I was pleased by them in this game overall. I think overall they played a strong game. I don't see why anybody should expect different in Atlanta. I think it's a game as well they can game plan well for and contain Mariota's running ability, contain somewhat Cordarrelle Patterson can do. But that's what the rest of this year is. And to me, this year was just a very big question mark and something of just wait back and see. Now we know what the team is and stuff, and just the rest of the way, it's just those are the stuff you want to see. You can't have expectations of, having the expectations of them winning out or winning this game, winning that game. It's week at a time. That's really what you got to do. It's week at a time. It's a young team, and you have to just continue to hope you see those right steps and stuff. And I think we saw a handful of that yesterday and stuff like that. And I'll take that, man. I'll take that. And I think that it's a team where that heading into next year, that if we can see that the rest of the way, I think it will bring a lot of encouragement heading into next year of things they can continue to build off of. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want to see. You want to see these young guys that you're relying on, that you drafted, that you hope are going to be here for a long time, flourish and thrive. And that's what I'm looking for every week. So it was just at least a fun game, guys. It was still just a fun game, just to sit back, kind of enjoy. You didn't have all these expectations going on. And you saw a handful of good things on both sides of the ball. And let's just hope that continues to be built on. And that's what I hope to see.
Big time. What about yourself, Daniel, mate? What are your final thoughts on the Steelers win and then maybe the direction?
It's one game at a time at this point. The Steelers won. I'm not really looking at the outcomes of these games as a reflection of what I want to see out of this team as much as what I'm looking for inside the games. Within the 60 minutes, what it is that this team is doing, how they're progressing, what they're getting right, the things that they're getting wrong are those things that we can see being fixed or can be changed or switched up to the point where it's a successful formula. When it comes to the next game against the Falcons, I think it's another winnable game, another game that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be able to go out there and at least, put up a competitive effort. I think it should be more than just a competitive effort. I think that this team should win this game. I'm looking forward to the matchup and the challenges that are coming up with the end of this year. Coming out of the bye, when I was most critical of Kenny Pickett, I had said what I need to see out of him is 5-4 out of the next 9 games. He's 2-1 at this point, so we still have a few games to go. He's in the right trajectory, and I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Big
And that's
time.
it. Like, I think that's it too. I think just always managing expectations and stuff like that is always a good thing when it comes to stuff that's unknown. And it's always good to hope for things, to always be on the look for things. But it's hard to just kind of have certain expectations and stuff when you don't really have a lot to really base stuff off. So that's why like I didn't really go in either with things this year on both sides of the ball. Well, defense, I honestly really thought they were going to have a top defense. I really did, just because I like some of the stuff they did in the offseason and really some of the guys they had. But still, like the rest of the way, like you can't have different expectations about like it's 1 week at a time. It's a younger team now, and you have to just sit back and enjoy it as a fan. And it's what you don't like and stuff you talk about, what you do like you talk about, and it's about just seeing the right steps, the right direction, because that's what it is. Like when you're a team kind of, I don't like to say the Steelers are rebuilding. I don't really like to say that, because whenever I think of rebuilding, I think of things of like a team tearing it down and like taking several years to get going again. Steelers aren't that. It's more so of just kind of transitioning, really, is how I like to kind of put it. So more so into kind of an unknown season with some different faces and things like that. It's one of those things of, you know what, man, it's what happens, and you just have certain things you look for and stuff like that. So I agree. It can't be. It's got to be 1 week at a time, game by game. And that's what you want to see, man. That's what you want to see. And like and that's the thing, like you're going to see good things too. And then you might see a week where you don't really see good things from your young guys. And that just happens. You're not going to see that every single week either, but you at least want to, as if you're the Steelers, you at least, with where you're at and with guys that you hope to be here for a long time, you just want to continue to see those right steps.
Mhm.
And we at least have some encouragement, I think, of that a little bit. And you just have to kind of see how the rest of the way goes and stuff like that. So but it's still fun, man. It's still fun. You know, the Steelers, it's why that if you're a Steelers fan, man, you got to be thankful for it, because things could be so much worse. You could be a Lions fan that just can never develop anybody, that spend all this money in free agency, doesn't work out. Jacksonville, Cleveland, all these things. With us, we're freaking prominent and relevant in every era, pretty much. And that's why I don't really have, or I should say, that's why, like, no matter how this season goes, and I'll end on this, no matter how this season goes, however it finishes, that's why I'm fairly confident that this team will be back on track more quicker than not, if that makes sense. Not saying that they're going to be on track next year and win the AFC. No. Back on track in the sense of getting themselves where they need to be, personnel, getting different guys in there that they don't have now, and finding themselves just in that competition again, in that race and stuff like that. And I think they'll do that sooner than later.
Well, I actually disagree with you. I think they're doing it this year. I think the Steelers are going to go win the North, baby. Let's go, AFC North.
10-7, Mark. 10-7.
Let's go. The Ravens are going to lose out their games. The Bengals are going to lose out their games. The Browns are going to lose out their games. The Steelers are going to run the table and go 10-7 and win the AFC North. The Ravens have the really high class Denver Broncos next week. The Denver Broncos have Russell Wilson. The Russell Wilson Denver Broncos are going to go out there and kill him.
Yep.
I joke.
Yep.
But that's what I hope for. That's why I'm a Steelers fan, man. KC is versus the Bengals. They can beat them. See you later, Bengals. We have the Ravens twice. Denver Broncos can have a shock win over the Ravens. I think they can be beaten. I believe the Steelers can win this next game and then make the Steelers versus Raven game a real kind of maybe a chance to get really back into it. But yeah, thanks guys checking out the show. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Nate, mate.
Yeah.
And
thank you, everybody in the chat.
Everyone, you guys are fantastic. Here we go, George. Later on, take it easy. Thank you guys again. Night, George. Good show. Alex in there. If you heard your burp.
Yeah, man. I'm actually have a stomach virus right now. I'm I'm about to fix and give everybody 1,000 more views by puking on the stay on the live right now.
we're gonna go. All right, we're gonna go. All right, guys.
Yep.
I'll see you later. Look, we're gonna win the North, man. You've heard it here first, but I would say that even if we're out of the race anyway, I don't care. Steelers can do this. We're just one game at a time and see what happens. And thanks, guys, for checking out the Unofficial Steelers podcast. And we'll see you next week, I believe, on Daniel's show, Stay the Steelers, correct?
Yes, sir. We'll be on my show this Saturday.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, guys. And we're out.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J.